Dear fashion lovers, you're at the beginning of your journey in fascinating work of garment making. For beginners, I have prepared a couple of exercises where you get fluent on the sewing machine. One of the exercise projects that I came up with is the quilt. That will actually help you to become fluent on how to stitch straight on the machine. So when we try to stitch straight and get used to it, pretty much making a sample like this is going to be very, very helpful. For the exercise, we need to prepare some fabric swatches. For exercises, muslin is the perfect fabric that we can use because it's easy to control and stitch on. Now, here's my fabric and I'm getting ready to cut my swatches. You see, here's my salvage of the fabric, and I have two of them on both sides of the fabric, which identifies the true grain of the fabric. Again, the true grain runs parallel to the salvage. First of all, we need to discard the salvage because usually the salvage is not included in garments because it's a tight weave and it shrinks differently and it's thicker usually. That's why we discard them. But we have to always understand the directions of the fabric. So on the straight grain, I'm going to measure the 13 inches length. So this will be the length of my swatches. And I'm going to tear the fabric. Why am I tearing? Is because muslin is a plain woven fabric, and when I tear, that cuts my fabric on the direction of that one thread. So it's straight. Now, on the cross grain of the fabric, I'm going to measure 5 inches and clip, next 5 inches and clip, and next 5 inches and clip, since I need 3 swatches. So then I tear them. Usually we don't sew anything without ironing, so I'm going to press my fabric swatches right now. Sometimes when I tear the fabric, it becomes crooked. It's looking crooked, but it's not crooked. All I have to do is fix it, block it. That's what we call. This little exercise is going to help you when you're draping. And after I block the pieces into straight, nice rectangular shapes, I'm going to press them. Why did I do 3 pieces? Is because quilts are usually made out of 3 pieces, where one of them would be the face fabric, another one will be some sort of batting, and the other one will be the lining. So let's pretend these are my quilt fabrics that are going to be stitched to each other, like that, on top of each other. Now, why am I suggesting you to stitch on 3 layers of fabric? Because it has a nice grip and it is going to help you to do your project successfully. As a beginner, it will be very difficult for you to stitch straight lines really straight at the very beginning. Therefore, I'm suggesting you to make lines on the fabric. I'm going to use my transparent ruler by adjusting my 1/4 inch line to the edge of the fabric. That's my first quarter, and hold the ruler in place and draft that line. The line should not be very bold because it will make your fabric dirty. And then the second quarter will be drafted by adjusting your ruler 1/4 inch line with that first line. And then you draft the second line and then the third line. Keep on drafting like this. So I'm going to be stitching by following those lines. So when you draft all your lines, your piece looks like this. And then please note that you're drafting only on one of them, which is supposedly your face fabric. So your practice is going to be stitching straight by staying on those lines all the time. So you can get used to stitching straight. I'm going to put this fabric on top of the second one and on top of the third one. The reason I'm doing quilts while I'm trying to help you to learn how to sew straight, I am going to teach you something else. The quilts are very fashionable nowadays, and they're using to make parkas, shoes, purses, and some other garments and accessories. As I mentioned before, usually quilts will have 3 layers to them. Our challenge is going to be to keep those stacked up fabrics straight, not twisting while we're stitching. In order for me to keep these 3 fabrics together and straight, I am going to put one pin with a small pinch at the center, another pin right in one corner, another corner, third corner, and fourth corner. That is going to be enough. Now we can start sewing. Before we start stitching, I would like to bring something to your attention. On my quilt, I'm going to do straight lines, but obviously quilts can be square and different sizes of square, or they can be simply different designs. In our case, we're going to do straight lines. One trick that I would like to teach you right now is to start stitching from the center in order to keep your fabrics stacked up on top of each other without twisting. So I'm going to stitch my first line, the middle line, and then the next line will be the second, and the left line will be the third, right line will be the fourth, left line will be the fifth, next right line will be the sixth, and so on. Sink your needle right on the first line at the middle, bring your presser foot down and start stitching. Please don't stitch over the pin. Take it off. I am stitching one of the side seams. So I'm stitching now the left side seam. So you're going to be stitching like that until you reach the end of both sides. So when you're done, this is pretty much how it should look. This particular sample has 1/2 inch spaces here. We have 1/4 inch because we want to stitch more lines to get enough practice. After we're done, we have to finish this sample as if it was a garment. Usually when we finish the garment, we finish the seam allowances inside of the garment to make it nice and clean. And we finish it either with an overlock stitch, or if you don't have an overlock machine, then you can stitch it with zigzag with your machine. So let me show them to you. Usually overlocked ones would look like this, but if I don't have the overlock machine, then I will be using my regular machine to finish my unfinished and frayed edges. Before my machine can stitch zigzag, I have to choose the wide zigzag, and also I have to choose it on my stitch dial, and I would like to have larger stitches here, and I'm going to start You see, I edged the fabric edge. In case you have sticking out threads, you can shave them off. After I'm done, I will cut the hanging threads and press my sample. So my sample is ready. This will conclude my demonstration of quilts for you, where you're learning how to stitch straight on the sewing machine. Again, I'm Sofi and I had the pleasure to work with you today and in the future. So if you liked my presentation, you can like it, subscribe it, or go to YouTube, my page, where you can find lots of sewing, pattern making, draping videos.